Okay, hello, you passionate singing people who are taking your Sunday to be with me to go deep into vocal pedagogy. Great way to spend the afternoon. I'm locked and loaded. I got my Poland Spring sparkling water. I got my Starbucks Americano. And I got a larynx. That's all you really need for a good solid day. Water, coffee, and larynx. And so we're, of course, taking your questions, and feel free to ask really anything, because that's what we're here for, going super deep into vocal technique, vocal pedagogy, and so fire away. I'm ready to hear them. Where are we going first? I think we're going to start with some questions from last time that we didn't quite get to. And from our pal Blue Moon. Blue Moon, hey, how you doing? Blue Moon asks, what is chiaroscuro? And chiaroscuro is an Italian term, and it means bright, dark. Chiaro is bright, and oscuro is dark. And the idea here is that we don't want to have a voice that is too bright or too dark, because if you have one or the other, it sounds kind of extreme and odd. Really, the ideal singing tone is something that is sort of right in between. So if I have like a too much chiaro, too much oscuro, is a little bit above. Okay, so the Italian bel canto pedagogues termed this chiaroscuro. The original idea of the term comes from the Italian Renaissance, where the great painters would combine elements of light and elements of dark. And you would see these great Italian Renaissance paintings, and they'd say, oh, what a great combination of colors of light and dark. And it's, chiaroscuro, bright, dark. Then when the great Italian singers and vocal pedagogues really of that day came along, they started calling voices chiaroscuro. And we still sometimes use that word to describe a balanced resonance in a singing voice. Okay, this is awesome. What a good question. Oh, hello to a new member, Joanna. And we're glad to have you today, Joanna. And let's see, we also have Blaze, and we have Leanne and Amelie, Anita, and Colin joining us today. So glad to see you all, folks. It's wonderful to spend the day with you. And we're going now next to another question. And the question is from Blaze. Blaze asked, is there a difference between a synthesizer and a piano? And yes, Blaze, there is a difference between a synthesizer and a piano. A piano is, of course, a live instrument, usually, just like this one, although this plugs in. But it gives you that classic piano tone, even if it's an electric instrument. A synthesizer can do many, many different sounds. Okay, this actually has a synthesizer on it. We have different synthesized sounds. So you can have a synthesizer that makes a piano sound, but a live piano obviously can't do a synthesizer unless it's electric. Okay, so that's a good question. Thanks for that. And now from Colin. Hey, Colin. Hi, Justin. How have you been? You know what? I have been actually pretty well recently. Colin went through a rough patch earlier in this spring. Today's Father's Day. I actually lost my father earlier in the year, so that was a tragedy for me, and was very sad. Went through all that. If you watch the Dr. Dan chat, actually, I had just flown from saying my goodbye to my father, and so I was kind of down on that, and I made mention of that being a difficult time. But today's Father's Day, so God bless you, Dad, where we are these days. But other than that, honestly, have been doing super well. Have been having a really good spring and summer since then. And Colin next says, it's been a joy to watch your videos. Thank you, Colin. I just wanted to ask, now that I'm able to go from chest to head, what should I do? Oh, without that break, what should I do next? Oh, great. All right. So if you don't know, Colin's basically saying that, at one time in his journey, we had happen or happen. And now he's getting the nice and smooth kind of mixy coordination. Are we done when we've got a smooth mix? No, we're not done. There are many other next steps for you, Colin. You will need to look at the styles of music that you sing and ask yourself, what stylistic features do these singers do? Is it vibrato? Is it straight tone? Is it both? Likely it's both. Can you really nail your straight tone? Can you really nail your vibrato? There could be little riffs and runs. There could be ways of articulating the words. There can be rhythmic values and phrasing values that you need to look at. You also said that your mix is worked out. That's great, but I've never known a mix that's completely worked out, Colin, and I know you probably know that. But there are sort of an infinite amount of coordinations that you can do in your mix. They can move toward chest dominance or toward head dominance. And so you may have found a great coordination that's working, but there's others. And so a great way to do that is with some volume control exercises. And see, can I do one of these deals? Do I have all those different coordinations or not? Can you go through it without, happening, right? Can you move through different dynamics and different vocal cord coordinations? That's a great next step for you. Okay, so the list could go on, but I think the best thing for you to do, Colin, is look at your style and make a list. The artists that you hear, what effects and stylistic choices do they do that you haven't mastered yet? And go forth. Okay, we're on to the next question. From Lien. Hey, Lien. I have been doing jaw stabilization exercises because I was using my jaw a lot. But for belting, I really need to bring my chin up a little, or am I wrong? Ooh, love this question. All right, so do we have to do one of these for belting? No, you don't. Okay, you don't need to do it. I would actually recommend not doing that at first, okay? What happens when we do this gesture is a lifted larynx, okay? And you know me, I'm not against a high larynx. Some people say, don't raise the larynx, it's bad for you. No, it's not bad for you. It is part of what we can do with our voices, and many pop artists do raise that larynx to get a certain tone to their voice, but you need to make sure that you can do the pitch, Leanne, without the larynx raise and without the jaw chin thing first, okay? We want to make sure that you can do that belt coordination inside the larynx with your compression and your vocal cord setup, okay? It needs to be on the vocal cord level first. Then once it's on the vocal cord level, you might choose a little higher larynx and try that coordination. Then once that's going well, this helps the larynx to rise, and not in a bad way. You see lots of pop singers, singing like that. So it helps. But it's not a help that I would want you to have as a first helper. Hope that makes sense, right? We don't take that help as a first option. We take that help after we've worked out the coordination where it should be done inside the larynx. All right? Good. Moving onward to Christ of Chapsis Official. Hello, Christ of Chapsis official. Nice name. Similar point to Lien on raising the chin. He says, Dear Justin, is it wrong for me to raise my chin and neck a bit upwards when singing F4, F sharp 4, and G4, which are my passagionotes? Good for you. I think it helps me keeping my throat open. And for notes above G4, I don't have to. You know, same thing, Christ of Chapsis official. No, you don't need to do it. You don't need to do it. Another way for me to say this is that that's cheating, okay? It's not optimal technique. It might actually be easier. I buy that. I buy it. But it won't make you the best you can be, right? If I'm in the gym, I'm doing like a bicep curl, and I do like this, well, yeah, it's easier. You know, I can lift more weight that way. But that's using two muscles, not one. Now I'm recruiting the shoulder to help the bicep. And yeah, it's easier. And I look like I can do more, but ultimately it limits me and I can't do as much. Especially on a passagio note, I would have you stay as even neutral as possible. Neutral breath stream, neutral larynx, neutral chord closure, neutral resonance situation. Nothing moving towards extremes, but everything staying balanced. So having to do one of these things, that is an unneeded compensatory helper or a cheater that we want to say, no, you don't get to, okay? Good. Okay, Anita. Welcome to Anita. Good to see you again. In vocal twang, do we use chest voice along with some nasal resonance? Also, how and why does the volume in singing increase by 600 when using twang? Okay, we're going to unpack lots of things here, Anita. We're going to unpack a lot. First, you say chest voice. Twang can be done regardless of register. So twang does not equal chest voice whatsoever. I could be totally in falsetto, and then I can add my twang. Now I'm doing a twangy falsetto. I could be in my mixed voice, and then I can add my twang, my mixed voice, and now I got a twangy mix. Or I do my chest voice, and now I got a twangy chest voice. Okay, so twang does not necessarily relate to vocal register in any way, okay? It might help a vocal register sometimes, but it is not a vocal register, and it is not associated directly with any vocal register. Totally independent skill, okay? Totally separate thing. Twang is a resonance event, not a register event, okay? And then you say nasal resonance, Anita, and twang also has nothing to do with nasal. Wow, yeah. Nasal is the drop of nasal voice would be then I could do it dark. I could do it neutral. Or I could do it twangy. It's a totally different thing. So, chest voice and registers, nothing to do with twang. Nasal resonance, nothing to do with twang. Totally separate category. Why does it boost the volume? I don't know about the 600 thing. You might be talking hertz and frequencies. It does boost upper frequencies, Anita, resonance frequencies above the note that's being sung. I don't know that it has to be 600. It can be many things. But why does it boost the volume? It makes higher frequencies become amplified, okay? I'm not sure if you guys know this or not. I'll tell it to you right now. Any note that you sing contains a lot of other notes above it, and they kind of stretch upwards to the heavens, right? There's infinite harmonics that go upwards. And there's also overtones and formants that bring out colors in your voice. You're singing this note, and other higher notes are in the sound. When we sing a twang voice, some of those upper frequencies get boosted. And that's why a twangy voice can really cut through the room, or when you hear like a baby cry, really cuts. The reason why is all of those higher frequencies. So that's what you're hearing, okay? Very good, very good. We're moving on to, whoops. Hold that, we're waiting for a hot question coming on through here. Yeah, this is from Blaze, and Blaze says, hey Justin, I'm having trouble singing with a high larynx. How can you sing with a high larynx? Love it, love it, because some people actually do struggle to sing with a high larynx, right? Most of the time we think, oh, the larynx is going up, it's going up, it's going up. There's problems, we got to fix it. But some people struggle with singing the high larynx. What I'm going to tell you to do first, Blaze, and anybody that wants to try it, if you take your finger on your larynx and you do a yawn, yeah, you feel it drop down, and I got a low larynx, and then you move it back to your normal speaking voice, and okay, now I've got a neutral larynx. But then if you try swallowing, your larynx shoots up to the skies. So now I'm aware of my larynx. Okay, I'm going to be here, I'm going to be there, I'm going to be there. If you can't get the high larynx, you're probably not trying the right character. Okay. Like, who is this guy? That's some crazy guy. Who is this guy? That's some normal guy. Who's this guy? Who is that guy, dude? Who is that guy? I mean, that's like, I don't know, like rocker, man. Like, that's like a rock and roll dude. Let me try that voice, okay? And then, you know, do you have the time to listen to me whine? Now I'm like suddenly that dude. It's best done by imitating characters. And, you know, I can show you the world. That's a character. You know, that dude's a character. The most extreme would be like doing like a nerdy character. If I want to do the highest larynx I can, I just think, E equals MC squared, and then I sing, ah. Okay, you want to, I wouldn't physically manipulate it as much as I would say, okay, brighter, poppier character people make that noise, whereas operatic people make that noise. Can I imitate with my speaking voice a brighter, nerdier, poppier character, any of those, and then try to sing with that? That's one way. If you want to go the physical approach, though, you can do some larynx exercises. Check this kind of stuff out. And you can touch your larynx, not hold it, touch it, and you can physically feel where is my larynx as I'm singing, and start to develop that. But the best way, honestly, is imitation. Okay? All right, moving right along. Rose. Hey, Rose. Hey, Justin, you have an excellent voice with crazy versatility. Wow, that's very nice, Rose. That means a lot to me, and your check is in the mail. No, really appreciate that. Thank you. What kept you motivated when you started to learn technique? I'm making progress, but I find that I am impatient with the process. Ooh, that's awesome, Rose. And I'll answer that in several ways. First off, we want singing to be a lifetime craft. Okay, it's a friend, right? When some of your best friends walk out on you, you know, when life is great and then it's bad and then it's great and then it's bad, singing is a rock. You can sing on your greatest day for joy, and you can sing on your worst day to heal the pain. And I've had students that are 4 years old, and I've had students that are 95 years old. Singing is for life. And so that's the first thing I want you to really own, because sometimes we're in a hurry to get a certain result or a certain accomplishment or a certain victory, and those are good things, they are, but they are not the most important thing. The most important thing is your craft, your art form, your relationship with singing. So as far as staying motivated long term, you know, it's having a relationship with your voice, a positive relationship with my voice. If I want to have a great, let's say, romantic relationship, all right, and you know, I take the young lady on several dates, and you know, we fall in love, and everything's going great, and then we finally say, "I love you," and then I say, "Wow, that was my goal, to get somebody to say I love you. Perfect, mission accomplished. Now I will do no more things for this relationship because it is I have achieved my goal." That would be a terrible relationship. A real good relationship you're honoring and nurturing over your lifetime. I want you to fall in love with your singing voice like that. I want you to say, this is a partner. This is a lover. This is something that will always be with me, and I will always be with it. If you have that relationship with your voice, you'll always stay motivated because you want to nurture it and spend time with it every single day. That's the best approach. Then the next thing I want to say is, well, what if I do have a certain goal? I want to hit this note by this date. I want to be in this role by this time. I want to have my first album out by X date. Okay, fine, good to have goals. You just got to make sure that you're setting achievable goals. Otherwise, you're going to get super frustrated. People with singing sometimes try to rush, and they say, if I don't get this thing by then, I'm nothing and I quit. Not saying that's you, Rose, but it's just very common. Set achievable goals. And if you're working with a voice teacher, they will help you to say, okay, what's the next goal? And they'll help you do a reasonable goal, right? If I have a client that says, you know, I want to be at Madison Square Garden in 2 months, I'm going to say, that's not going to happen. But here's what you can do. Let's master this E flat by July. And I will know that they can do it. Set reasonable goals for yourself. And if you are working with somebody, have them set reasonable goals for you. You'll be a lot happier. Then that relationship that I spoke of will not be wrecked by expectations and demands. Okay, I hope that's helpful. But we all struggle with that. I do too, big time. Next, we have Joanna. Okay, Joanna, great to have you on board. I've been trying to work on forward placement, namely tongue placement and nasal resonance, lowering the soft palate somewhat. Very good. However, when recording myself, I don't hear much of a difference. I can feel that I'm singing differently, but I just don't hear it when I'm recorded. Well, that's very interesting. I guess the only way to address that specifically, Joanna, would be to record it in different ways. Okay. In other words, record the old one. Try to do the best imitation of how you used to sing. Record one that has more oscuro, more darkness, as we talked about, than you would think. Okay, so super dark one. And then record the new one and compare. Because we're notoriously bad for judging our own voices. That's why voice teachers exist, is to give you another perspective, another oral feedback. So we're not great at judging our voices. Even when we hear it back on recordings, we say, whoa, I sound like that. I don't know what's going on. I don't think I like that. We're not good at that. And so just with the recording, Joanna, you'll have to really do different ones, I think, to highlight the difference. old school, extreme, new school, and then see what's happening. I just want to address, though, briefly, forward placement. That can be lots of different things, okay? So I just want to give you a list of what they are. It could be singing with a wider embouchure. This kind of thing makes your sound brighter or more forward. It could be, as you say, placing the tongue more forward and tall. This position is a brighter sound than okay? It could be a elevated larynx, which we talked a lot about today, okay? So a little bit higher, brighter position. It can be more chord contact, actually. This sound will not make as cutting of a sound as that sound. More chord contact will equal higher colors. It can be twang, as we talked about today. That's another element. And you mentioned the soft palate, nasal resonance. I don't know that I completely include that in forward placement. I love nasal resonance more than anybody you can find. I'm not positive that that's a forward gesture. If anything, it's a very backwards to the back gesture, but you might include it. I buy it. Okay, but those are the factors that you're working on, Joanna. Embouchure, tongue position, larynx position, chord closure, twang, and potentially soft palate. And that's it. So if you're not feeling enough of a difference, increase some of those factors. All right, next up, we're rocking here. Terry Nosworthy, great to see you. Sorry for your loss. Thank you, Terry. I really appreciate that a lot. There's a video of Rachelle Ferrell singing with open arms, and seems like she sings an A sharp in pure chest voice. Is that possible? Yes, big time. A sharp or B flat. I'm assuming that you mean 4. That one. Yes, people do it all the time. Females. Okay. They that's a big sound. If you carry full chest up to B flat 4, it's kind of like a yell. All right. But yeah, totally can do it. If you mean this B flat 5, no, there's no way to do that in pure chest. But there is a way to add some TA to make it into some sort of mix so that it is not head voice. All right, and then that's up there. But a few women do it. I think Ari can do it. Demi Lovato does it. I'm sure Beyonce can do it. So if you're talking that one, always a mix, hands down. If it's this one, then yeah, you can like yell it out there, and it's kind of cool. All right, good. Colin Joseph on solving the crack. Thank you for that answer, Justin. I'm not sure if it's too early to ask this question, but how do I change the head and chest ratio in my mix? Whoa, because I'm looking for a more powerful chesty mix. Great. How do we increase the power? Well, it's got to be a combination, Colin, of 3 factors: breath, chord closure, and resonance. We know this. Louder sounds will have a greater breath pressure and, often a greater use of vocal cords. I would go for some volume exercises to start, Colin, and see how does that go. How do I do with messa de voce and crescendos and decrescendos? Can I flat out make my voice louder? All right, and that's not a bad thing. We don't mean we're pushing. We're just aiming for volume control and trying for more forte. So there's that. Chord closure. You need to make sure you're making good closure. Some people are, doing like this kind of sound, in their mix. That would be like if I'm talking to you like this. It's not falsetto, but I'm not making very good chord contact. I'm using very little chord contact.
Can I find the ability to use a massive amount of vocal cords? Yes, I can. I can find the ability to bring tons and tons of fat meat together to make these sounds.
You need to some extent, if you're going up there and we're getting like, Gig, 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 gig. Fine. Gig, gig. Lots of meat. Gig, gig, gig. So I've got enough to work with. Next, make sure that your resonance is not going so tiny and tinny with a high larynx or small tight noises, you know. You're not going to get the full sound with tiny shapes. I need to have room for some of that volume. So you've got to accommodate your chestier sounds with more roominess. You're not going to get the bigger sounds if you're too small and tight with your resonance. You got to open it up. And yes, I mean larynx. Yes, I mean jaw. And yes, I mean finding extrinsic tensions and saying, now you're out. Okay? Hope that's giving you some new ideas. Next, we've got Jake F. Jake F. Hey, Justin, obviously using more diaphragmatic support can help get more strength in the sound. But when does supporting too much to the point that unwanted muscles get involved in your singing? Well, I need to unpack that a little bit. Support is a confused term in the voice, because I think usually people assume that support means more, and it's actually misused that way. Like, give it more support. That note sounded weak. Support it better. I need more breath support from you. And that's a misusage, because the final product of support is actually less air than more. Okay, just want to really clarify this. Any person could take a breath and then let it go. Ha! And that's bad support. Support would be, I take a breath and I dole it out very small and even. So the final product of breath support is not more or a bigger sound. It's just less air and more controlled air. So I don't want to get you confused on that topic. Now, assuming that we're talking about, breath flow. If you over support, meaning you hold back the sound too much, we're going to get like a really squeezed thing because you're not flowing with your air. Okay? So you have to decide, does my sound feel restricted and conservative with breath? Does my sound feel like it's just huge and tons of air getting through a big fat breath dominant sound? Or is there a balance? Ultimately, we want the balance. If you're tight squeezy, you might need to give it a little bit more. If you're loud, blasty, pushy, you need to support more, meaning use less air, to find your balance. Okay? All right. Onward and upward to Yetta. Yetta, NG, Yetta, with the greatest last name of all time, NG. Your last name is the best vocal exercise there is. That's the coolest. I wish I was named Justin. That's the only name I can think of better than Justin Stoney is Justin. Awesome. Okay, I know high C to high G is C6 to G6. How about a high A and high B? Is this A? Oh, I see your question. Okay. At least in the U.S. and in the Western world, because it can vary depending on where you are, the numbers change at the C's. Okay. So let me explain that. This is A0, and then I have B flat 0, and then I have B0, and then I have C1, and then I'm in the ones until C2, and then I'm in the twos until C3, etc. Okay? So if you're telling me that you're singing C6 and G6, then the next A is A6, and then the next B is B6 until C7. Okay? So that's how that works. Awesome. Zoe Ninninger. Hi, Zoe. And Zoe says, hi, I'm a huge fan. Well, thank you for being a huge fan, Zoe. We really appreciate that. And I can belt with my mixed voice, but once I get around A5, it starts to sound super nasally. Sometimes even around G, depending on what vowel I'm singing. How can I get rid of this? I got the answer for you. Really got it. You're, I believe, confusing the term nasally, and that's fine. This happens all the time, all the time. I would be shocked if it was actually nasal, Zoe, shocked. You're thinking of too bright, okay? Too bright, which would be too high of larynx. Whoa! That makes the sound too bright, especially in many belt voices. We can't hang on at a certain point. We're going for, you know, ma 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 ma. Then I go ma ma ma. Oh man. Ma 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 ma. Oh darn. Ma 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 ma. Good. But what we try is ma ma ma. I'm getting all that stuff right there. And we think, oh, that sounds nasal, but it's actually bright or higher frequencies, and it's missing colors in the equation. This comes from lifting the larynx in a way that we don't want, okay? And right where you're describing, right through, you know, the middle voice of a female, G, A, B flat, that territory, very common to hang on to the vocal cord strength by lifting the larynx instead of by hanging on to the vocal cord strength. So what does this all mean, Zoe? It means you've got to sing with a lower larynx, all right? You've got to do lower larynx work, or else it's going to sound too bright, or nasally, too bright in the middle, okay? So, like we talked about earlier, I think it might have been Blaze or Colin, but we talked about, you know, finding different larynx positions. You need to feel like a different character a little bit and find this person, and then I'm going to go back in my belt, and maybe I do that. Good, 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 good. So I feel like I can have that space of that good, but good, good, and then that's too far. Obviously, I don't need to. I don't need to do that. But if I can do the, I can do the and it's, you know, it's a brighter sound. I don't have to do the. You see what I'm saying? So you got to get into your middle voice, Zoe, and deepen, darken the instrument, okay? Awesome. Brenda Allard. Hey, Brenda. Hi, Justin. My voice teacher works with CVT and therefore uses that terminology. I gotcha. She doesn't like it when I use terms like chest voice and head voice. Why is that? And why do you think of these, or what do you think of these vocal systems? Well, okay, fabulous. CVT, Complete Vocal Technique, Catherine Sandlin out of Denmark. You know, good people doing great research and great things. Like so many in the vocal community. You know, we're all in this together. CVT has done some incredible research and amazing pedagogues there. They did kind of make up their own language, okay? And I'm not faulting anybody for that, but they did invent their own terms completely, you know, with curbing and overdrive and things of this nature. Nobody ever said that before. They just decided, let's label it this and that. Okay, fine. We can all label things different ways, but truthfully, Brenda, other people label it differently. They say chest voice and head voice. They say M1 and M2. They say loft. They say voce di petto. They say mix. They say thyroarytenoid dominant production and cricothyroid dominant production. There's lots of terms, and this can be very confusing for some people, but there's lots of terms that mean similar things. For me, I'm not against any terminology really, as long as we can communicate. So I guess if your voice teacher is uncomfortable using other people's terminology, I guess it's got to go with that because he or she's not comfortable with it. But to me, we want to honor the wide variety of languages that are used and speak all of them, really. I mean, why not? People have been singing for thousands of years, and the old terms can be nice, right? And the new terms people are just inventing them. So there's no gold standard for vocal terminology. There's no governing body that says this is how it must be. So you are truly free to study different systems and to hear different people's ideas and to use different languages. If it's me, I want to speak all the languages. If it's a certain CVT teacher, maybe that teacher just wants to talk CVT, fine. Or maybe there's another CVT teacher that would talk many of the languages. You're going to see all things, but if you want my opinion, speak as many languages as you can and don't get too protective over your right way of doing things because singing's too big for that. Yeah? Okay. Now, David Boras y Vidal. Welcome to David. My teacher tells me that I put tension in my belly when singing. I have been singing, pushing air for a long time, and it's hard to manage the air and tension now. Is there an exercise or trick? Well, that's very interesting. Because if your teacher told you to put tension in your belly, and then you've been pushing air, those things seem like they go hand in hand, okay? Remember, this is like the gas pedal. If you're doing one of these gestures when you sing, or any variety of that, you're probably going to be pushing the air, okay? So yes, we need some abdominal muscle activity, but it's very subtle, David. It's very, very subtle. I can make some freaking huge notes. And I'm not doing one of these. I'm doing one of these. The very smallest little abdominal pressure that you can think of. It's very subtle. And that, by the way, good people, that's breath support. Less, not more. Okay? We're trying to control the air, we're trying to blast it out. When you engage your abdominals or you drop your rib cage down, that's what forces out the breath. So what's the solution? We could give you an exercise, David. I mean, you could practice a hiss or, a Z, something like that so that you don't blast. But I think just awareness is important here, David. If you've been doing one of these, or one of these, or one of these, stop. See if you can stay more expansive. See if your rib cage can stay more open. See if your abdominal area can stay more open. Your low back, your obliques. Can you stay more expansive as you exhale? That's the best advice or trick I have, is go right to the source, okay? But if you need an exercise, like I say, fricatives, those things are awesome because they help you to not be able to blow out so hard. Also, the straw trick is very popular these days. A lot of people like that, where you get a little coffee straw and you're blowing into the straw. That can reduce your breath force too. A couple ideas for you. Okay, Gillian Omotoso. Hi, Gillian. Hey, Justin, do you think people focus on range too much? What other ranges are arguably more important than pitch? What makes a fach? I'm not sure I understand the second question. What other ranges are arguably more important than pitch? But I'm going to take the first question. Do you think that people focus on range too much? Yes and no. I think people judge themselves too harshly due to what notes they have or don't have. And so if you're obsessed with range and you don't have a note and you feel like trash because you don't have the note yet, then you are focusing on range too much and giving yourself a hard time. On the flip side, people have been taught that there are voice types and limits, and because they've been told that they're a certain voice type or that the voice must not grow in range or push that territory, they don't explore their full range. And I think, generally speaking, people need to know to focus on range more. They need to know that what you think you're capable of, it's so much more than that. I have never, ever had a singer come through my studio where we didn't add notes to their voice. Ever. We're always able to add range. And I get some heavy hitters come through, some top professionals come through, and I listen to them, I say, I ought to be paying you right now. That's how good you sound. And we always can make improvements, and we can always expand the range. The range is something that I would want everybody to take their limits off and think, go, 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 let's get this thing. So don't be discouraged about it, but do focus on it, because it's very important to stretch your voice and improve in that way. And what is a vocal fach? That's a classical voice typing, like a lyric baritone, coloratura soprano, spinto tenor. Those are classical classifications of voice types. Contemporary singers, for most purposes, can disregard and just develop your voice. Okay. Next, we got Kathleen Bennett. And Kathleen says, hi, I just joined today. Great to have you, Kathleen. And she recently learned to take a lighter approach to her voice and focus on resonance. What's the best exercise you'd suggest to do daily? Okay, well, that's cool, Kathleen. So it sounds to me like you must have been pushing a bit, making a big sound, perhaps a too belty of a sound, pushing chest voice, driving it too hard. And so now you're looking for a lighter situation. Good. I'll give you a few ideas. First, the nasal. Oh, the nasal. And you know how I adore the nasal. And remember, all you good folks, this is not bright. This is not twang. This is the larynx. This is the nasal. Okay. It's the nose. The nose is so great, Kathleen, and all, because it sheds the weight. It invites the CT, stretch, the length of the vocal cords, it invites it, and it sheds some of the weight off the cords. It gives you a lighter sound, all right? So I would start with the nasal, Kathleen, and so that's N, N, and NG, and you're gonna work those notes that you're having, weighty problems with that sort of thing, pure nasal. All right. And then you're going to go ahead and open up to different vowels that you've been struggling with. If you're a pusher, perhaps it's the ah vowel that you've been struggling with, or the a vowel, or the ah vowel. Mouthy, pushy vowels tend to get out of control. And we're going to pair that with the nasal. So that would be, instead of ah, that'd be like or mum. And now my ah vowel is getting the help of the nasal. So that's a good way to shed the weight. E vowels and oo vowels, Kathleen, can't go wrong with those. Our headiest two vowels, E and oo. Work those guys, and they definitely vote for head resonance and lighter recipes. And then finally, Kathleen, I would say do some texture stuff. In other words, you can hear that that's a different texture, then this is a different texture, this is a different texture. If I have control over my textures, my vocal cord closure, then I will have all the options. Sounds like you've had some of the thicker options. Practice some of the thinner ones. You'll love it. Okay. And most of you guys are followers of the show. Okay, otherwise you wouldn't be here. And next, 2 weeks from tonight is Quick Singing Tips. An episode's coming out. 2 weeks from now, there's going to be Voice Lessons to the World, episode 109, and only you guys know what it's going to be. It's going to be on singing breathy and the benefits of breathy singing and style and technique. That will help you, Kathleen, so stay tuned for episode 109, okay? 2 weeks from now. Okay, back to Leanne. Thanks a lot for your answer. I still have some more about the jaw stabilization. Also known as general switch. Let me read this. I have to switch to head voice sooner than before. In the lower registers, my voice is cracking now when I make the switch. Does it? Boy, I really wish I could just ask you what you mean. That's the only disadvantage here. Leanne, clarify your question and we'll get back to you, okay? Because I can't quite understand the topic. Okay, now Anita asks, how do we produce scatting? Scatting. Scatting is a jazz, if you don't know what scatting is, it's a jazz skill set, you know, that sort of thing. And what we need here is 2 skills to get scatting going. You need to have some jazz improv training, okay? And so you need to, there's CDs, not these days, CDs. There's programs, courses that you can get that will give you like one of these. And you're just gonna learn without first doing the sounds. You're gonna, you're gonna start making up little melodies within jazz, a jazz progression. It's great to work with a jazz teacher on this. But you got to get good at making up improvisational melodies along with jazz chord progressions. It really helps if you play an instrument and you can start to chart out some of your solos. But you have to be a good jazz improviser, note-wise. Then from there, when do I do a bop bop? When do I do a skilladoo? Like that honestly is almost like speaking in tongues. Like you let it flow. There are certain sounds that usually come from imitating instruments. Like if I do a wah, 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 maybe I'm imitating a trumpet. If I'm doing like a hee, hee, maybe I'm doing a muted trumpet, right? And all the percussion, the percussive consonants, that stuff is imitating the drums. So it's a 2-part process, Anita. Learn to improvise over jazz progressions and let your voice go free with sound making while imitating jazz instruments. It takes a while to get good at that, and you'll likely want to study with a jazz person. Doesn't even have to be a jazz singer. A jazz pianist actually can give you ideas on how to improvise. Okay, awesome. Now back to Leanne, because I wanted to get this. When I stabilize my jaw, I have to switch from chest voice to head voice sooner. Right. Yeah, definitely. Yes, correct. So that's what I mean by cheating. When you're doing all this other stuff, I know it makes it easier, right? That's what I was saying about the gym thing. Like, no, I cannot lift the 40-pound dumbbell unless I do this. So I got to stick with 25 until I'm strong enough to do it the right way. It's better for you, Leanne and all, to focus on the form first. Okay, focus on the technique first. Get the technical mastery, and then add the other things. Okay, because like I say, it's not wrong to do one of these things, but that's not your first step. That's not your first step. Your first step is to get it without, and then add it as a color later on. So yeah, it's going to be harder, but also better. Okay, good. Oh, Janet 2A Wilson, welcome. I just joined. Hey, we're glad to have you. And I just got partway through and taking notes. Hey, that's great. Yeah, you feel free to take notes. Oh, any advice about messa di voce to unite the registers? Loved my response to Kathleen. Thank you. Yeah, well, with messa di voce, and if you guys don't know messa di voce, that is the swelling of volume, like going piano to forte and back. One of these kind of things. Etc. You do it on one pitch. That's classic messa di voce. I love doing it with patterns. That sort of thing. How do we get better at it? Well, first of all, there's an entire episode on that. If you want to go back and look, could be 78. I don't know. I've done too many episodes. But look back. There's a messa di voce lesson, so you can do that. But what we really need to be thinking about, I think, Janet, is chord contact and compression while we're doing this. Okay, because the breath is the changing factor. And when we're building our voices, there's always a stable factor and a changing factor. And we want to be very sure of what we want to stay the same and what we want to change. That's why I'm telling Leanne, don't change this, then you're not going to get this. Okay? So with messa di voce, we're changing the breath pressure, right? You're starting off with a little bit, you're adding more, you're adding more, you're taking it away, you're taking it away. That is a given. That's going to stay. We can't do anything about that. That's changing. What's happened is the vocal cords might do like one of these. As I took away my breath, the chords fell apart. I'll have to make sure that those two stay together. Okay? So you need to be aware as the breath is changing of light chord contact. We're going to go more and more, thicker, and then back the other way. You have to really go gradually to find what is that moment where things want to either get way ahead and too compressed and too fat, or they want to just fall apart. Okay? So be very aware, very conscientious of your chord closure, and go as gradually through the messa di voce as you possibly can do. Okay, and go back and watch that episode. All right, so I think we have to wrap up. Maybe can we? Yeah, we'll just get one more, then we'll wrap for the day. We got one more from Terry Knoxworthy. And how is a leggiero tenor different from a countertenor or just a tenor? I think I can answer this pretty quickly. A leggiero tenor is a light, high tenor that does not sing in falsetto. Okay? And these are vocal fach, people, F-A-C-H, fach. This is classical designations. Contemporary singers just, go sing. All right, but if you use these terms, fine. Leggiero tenor, high, light tenor, non-falsetto tenor. Countertenor, falsetto tenor, singing like a classical female. Okay, countertenor does that stuff. And a tenor, that's just a high male voice in any style or genre. Okay, so hope that answers that fast. And wow, what fun! I mean, I can't think of having more fun than sitting around on a Sunday, drinking a dark roast and talking vocal ped with you folks. And I appreciate you. I appreciate you being members and your passion for this and your great questions and some of your kind words and enthusiasm. Quick singing tips coming out tonight. Check that out. Voice Lessons of the World in 2 weeks. Brendan's awesome show, Voice Breakdown. We've got some exciting new characters coming, so that'll be next week. And please join Brendan's live chat too, because I'm telling you, this guy is a vocal genius, and he's a speech language pathologist, and he knows vocal injuries, he knows singing, he knows speech, he knows characters, he knows heavy metal. Like, ask Brendan questions. His live chat will be coming up pretty soon, in I think two weeks, so you can check that out. But I bow to you, and we will see you at my next live chat in July. And thanks again for being members. We'll see you next time.